Hi guys, I'm Leanne from the Real School of Music. Your son or daughter was so excited when they started music lessons, but recently you've noticed that they're really stressed out about it. They're struggling, not having as much fun, or they're not as engaged. You already know that taking lessons is important, and deep down you want them to keep at it, but you also want them to have fun. How do you know whether to encourage them to keep going or to take a break? That's what today's video is all about. In his best-selling book, The Dip, author Seth Godin explains when it's wise to quit something and when it's best to struggle through a challenge to achieve success. He describes 3 scenarios: the cliff, the cul-de-sac, and the dip. In a cliff situation, you're headed for failure and ought to change gears as to not waste time and energy. In the cul-de-sac situation, things may seem appealing, but you aren't really making any progress and are essentially stuck in a dead end. The dip, on the other hand, is the long road between being a novice and achieving mastery. If you're in a dip, you need to power through the challenges in order to become the best at what you do. As a parent, you're trying to understand and help them to understand if your child is in a cliff, cul-de-sac, or dip situation. The good news is that more often than not, it's just a dip. Your job is to help them recognize it as a dip or a bump in the road and to embrace it as a path to growth and improvement. You can help them to remember times when they experienced a different challenge, maybe at school or in a sport, but they stuck with it and in the end they were proud of themselves and what they accomplished. On the other hand, if they seem really overwhelmed, then it might be the sign of a cliff or a cul-de-sac. When that's the case, it might be best to tell them to take a break rather than forcing them through it. So how can you tell the difference? Here are a few red flags that may mean it's time to ease back on your child's lessons, at least temporarily. Number 1, is getting them to practice stressful for both of you? Does your child resist or fight you every time? Number 2, does your child ever initiate playing on their own? It may be rare among children and teens, but if they willingly practice without being asked even occasionally, it's a good sign. Number 3, once they begin playing, do they watch the clock the entire time, or do they get caught up in practicing and play for longer than the minimum amount of time? Number 4, do they enjoy playing a favorite piece that they've mastered? Do they take pride in their progress? Number 5, do they feel stuck at a certain point no matter how much they practice? And number 6, is there another activity where your child shows enthusiasm, such as sports or art? Even if your child exhibits some signs of a cul-de-sac or a cliff, that doesn't mean that they have to give it up entirely. The very best thing to do is to talk to your teacher. Share your concerns and ask for help and ideas. If you're lucky enough to have an outstanding teacher, you'll be relieved to know that the teacher has already been sensing this and is one step ahead of you, armed with suggestions backed by years of experience. Here are a few options that your teacher may suggest. 1, changing up their approach to give them a renewed sense of satisfaction when they play. For example, some students benefit from practicing first thing in the morning when they have more energy, while others may do better in the afternoons or evenings. 2, change the day and time. Maybe the lesson is crammed into a busy day. Try changing the lesson days or cut back on the number of practices scheduled to offer some relief and free up time to relax, pursue other interests, or just hang out. Number 3, encourage them to find new and fun ways to make music, such as joining a band, whether it's through school or with friends in an informal setting, or even experimenting with new instruments other than their primary one. If you've discovered that it may be best to take a break, that's totally okay. It never has to be permanent. But if it's the dip, reminding your child that music can be fun and challenging at the same time may be exactly what they need to keep going, to help them develop a sense of accomplishment, pride, and tap into what they're truly capable of. Thanks for watching.